Yeah, so this is one of the things about living in base, which is really nice. So I had 2 day turns I swapped into 2.5 day trip. It was initially supposed to be midway turn, deadhead to Vegas, operated a red eye back the next night. Someone called fatigue when I was waiting. The airplane was late getting to Atlanta because the weather or whatever. Get a call from scheduling. Hey, we need you to operate Cancun. And then so the pairing changed. So it was going to be operate to Cancun, deadhead back, deadhead to Vegas the same day to operate the red eye back.
Wow.
Well, the flight attendants timed out in Cancun, so they decided to kick everyone off the airplane. Not kick everyone off, but they had everyone get off, and they rebuilt the airplane back. And we missed the commute. So all things considered, it was 20 hours of credit to operate one leg and be home in bed within 10 hours.
Yeah.
You got
and I was like, damn.
Now, if you could do that every week. Hey everybody, welcome back to another great episode of Autopilot On Podcast. I'm Scott, John's here, and we got Connor back. Welcome back, Connor.
Greetings.
What's up, Connor? How are you doing, man?
Fantastic. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
We got a ton to talk about today, a lot on the docket. There's been a lot going on we're going to basically a lot of industry news today. So what do you guys want to start with? Let's talk about how Connor's job's going. Tell us about your job.
Sure. Yeah. So it's been a very busy summer for me personally, and I'm sure really the entire aviation industry. It's been very busy. Been doing a lot of trips on the Gulfstream 4, which I'm flying on. I live in Tyler, about 2 hours away from Dallas, where the aircraft is based. So I've been doing a lot of commuting up there. I just wrapped up an Anchorage, Alaska trip.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, tell us about the Alaska
that was fun. Trip. And really enjoyed that. I was a first timer up there, got some good pictures, and spent 8 days up there. So really got to get acclimated with the people up there. The weather was fantastic. Never got above, I believe it was 68 or 69 degrees the entire 8 days we were there.
Awesome.
And the other thing, it only gets dark 1 hour a day this time of year up there, which I was not acclimated for, but got acclimated after 7 days. Had a great time up there. And then I did my longest flight of my entire career was from Anchorage to Nashville on the way home.
Holy
so that
crap,
was
that's
nonstop.
6 hours and 45 minutes in the seat. So
wow.
that was actually pretty interesting to see. Was very tired. Having to keep myself awake.
What time of day did you do that at? Was it in the daytime? Was it in the daytime, or did you do like a red eye there?
No, it was during the day. I think we launched out of Anchorage about 9 a.m. and landed in Nashville maybe close to 6 or 7 because of the time change. And those are rough numbers. I don't have the exact time on there. But yeah, just wrapped up with a Turks and Caicos trip as well. So that was fun. I was very surprised at how small that island really is. And then whenever we were getting ice on the way out for our passengers, a bag of ice cost $12 down there because they have no fresh water on the island.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. Getting ready to go on Thursday to Eagle Vale.
That'll be a lot of fun too. Pretty challenging airport down there.
Very challenging. Already checking the weather ahead of time. Looks good. With Eagle, it's one way in, one way out. You're on the approach and you're looking up at the mountains whenever you're coming in. So definitely pretty tricky. And then, last but not least, we have a pretty big beach trip at the end of this summer and then on to kind of the fall and winter schedule. So, yeah, it's been a lot of flying so far, and I like it. I'm getting acclimated to the airplane. Yeah, really, really kind of finding my footing in the new type rating that I got just 3 or 4 months ago.
Has it been a hard transition to the airplane?
Yeah, it's coming from the Airbus to the G4. It's a lot less animated. So you got to do a lot more of that pilot stuff, as they call it.
Sure.
With the Airbuses, you have managed descents, open climb, thrust climb, all that sort of stuff. Managed climb, open climb. It's been a while since I've flown it now. But yeah, you really got to monitor the aircraft. And sometimes the aircraft isn't doing exactly what you want it to do, and you got to take off all animation and just fly it stick and rudder the way they used to. So it's been a pretty good transition for me. And
dude,
yeah,
how much are you flying? Like, do they tell you ahead of time when you're going on this trip, or is it? I forget. Is it on call? How's it going in that sense?
Yeah, so the guys that were flying, they have their schedule pretty much booked out up until the end of this year. There are some trips, like for example, yesterday I got a text from our dispatch saying that they added a trip on for next week, just a day trip. Very rarely, we technically are on call, but very rarely with this account do we actually get called out and say, hey, you need to be here in 3 or 4 hours, much like the airlines are on reserve, where it's very common where, hey, you got to check in 5 hours, this, that, and the other. So that's been a nice change for me. I pretty much know my schedule, and I get to live at home instead of in a crash pad.
There you go.
So it's been pretty nice. I really like this transition. I'm happy where I'm at, and it seems to be very stable. So definitely looking forward to flying with these guys for as long as they'll have me.
What a cool chapter in your aviation career, dude. I just think that going from your situation to what you're doing now, I think you're going to always remember these times going up, doing Anchorage and then Turks and Caicos. Like, you're doing probably some of the coolest destinations you can do in that job. So, and going to Eagle to, next week, dude, like, that's awesome.
It's super nice, and I had some airline points with American, so I bought a ticket for the wife, so she'll be meeting me up there for the July 4th weekend. So even though with this profession we do miss a lot of holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, every now and then whenever it makes sense. This will be the first time I get to bring my wife on a trip with me, so we're certainly excited for that too. So yeah, there's just all kind of different perks on different jobs, and this one's treating me pretty well. I'm happy with it. It was a change from 121 ops moving to 135 ops, but just like everything, pilots have to be flexible and open to change.
Yes, sir. Speaking of the 4th, do you guys have any plans for it? What are you guys up to?
Work. I'll be working.
So that sucks.
I'll be up in Eagle for the July 4th weekend. They have a big fireworks show that we'll be going to.
Can they do fireworks up there? With do they have like drought issues or what I mean, like forest fire stuff?
Yeah, so it's actually like a laser show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I call it firework, but yeah, it's like a laser show that they put on. So that'll be my first time experiencing that. Maybe do some zip lining, some whitewater rafting, things like that.
Knowing how expensive Eagle is, I'm sure it's going to be really nice. The rich people don't want bad fireworks or laser or whatever it is, man. They'll get their money's worth.
Exactly. There's no doubt.
That's great.
What about you? You doing anything for the 4th of July, John?
Yeah, I got my mom in town right now. I just got done with 2 weeks with my in-laws here, and then my mom came in yesterday, and then my dad and my brother right after. I'm actually going to be heading out a little early probably for you guys, but I got to go pick them up at what we call, Hotlanta at the airport. So we'll see if they get a gate. We'll see if they wait for an hour and a half, what their situation is there. I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but man, this weather here has been pounding the Southeast, man. It's been brutal. Connor and we were all talking right before we went on air, was the article with over 100 airplanes for Delta needed to be inspected and grounded for a hail event that came through. So I live south of the airport. I didn't see it actually missed us, which is pretty uncommon actually for storm to go over the airport and not continue past us. So I guess it was insane though. I mean, people were waiting 5-6 hours for a gate. And so it's been pretty rough. So it's not just the low costs having to wait for gates. It was everyone that day. That's for sure.
Yeah. Over 450 flight cancellations affecting over 2 or 3 million passengers is the report that I heard. In fact, it was so severe that the ATC tower was evacuated in Atlanta.
They lost power, I believe. That's the reason. They just didn't have anything working, and that tower was like swaying back and forth, I think. So
So not only did they have to cancel 450 flights, but yeah, to your point, they had to ground over 100 Delta aircraft for structural inspections because of the quarter size, or it was 2 or 3 quarter size inch hail that they were getting. So you can only imagine all the aircraft parked underneath it just taking a complete beating.
And you can't do
So
anything. What are you supposed to do about hail coming on the airplanes? You just kind of have to take it and go in and inspect it later on and hope for the best,
sucks.
But good thing is it's their main maintenance headquarter for Delta. So whenever we're taxiing there for Delta maintenance ops, or I can't remember, they have a special word for it, but every time I drive into work, I pass that building that has probably 150 jet turbo engines, just like sealed in some kind of plastic. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, and that parking lot alone is like probably over $10 billion of airport or aircraft engines just sitting there. And so, they run a really good ship when it comes to their maintenance. So I bet they're pretty much back in business. But we'll see about this 4th of July weekend. I know that coming up tomorrow, I think, is the busiest travel day they're expecting. And then July 6th is what TSA is kind of projecting. So we'll see. But yeah, other than that, for 4th of July, we're just going to hang out down here. I got 5 days off, which is very unlike my schedule. So it's been really nice just to kind of relax. But, having a little one and, people, family for the last 2-3 weeks, it's been a lot. So it's been, hopefully I get some nice relaxation time, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely,
Cool.
man. It'll be good to see the folks.
Yeah, it will be. Scott, where are you going to end up for the night of the 4th?
I'll be in Denver. I got
Okay.
This is something I wanted to talk about. So I had to move my schedule around because I didn't make it to work for the first time this week, and I think it all
Talked
ties
about commuting
into
last time.
what's
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think it ties into what's been happening with I think the airline screwed up on load planning this summer. I think it all ties in because they all got scared with the tariffs and tightened everything up, cut a lot of flight and block hours and things. And then the reality was the economy didn't struggle as much as they thought, and passengers were booking at higher rates than they expected. And now they don't have the flights and the aircraft in position to handle it. So what I've noticed is in the past couple weeks, my commute had gotten really challenging. All the flights were oversold. Everything was oversold and everybody was showing up for their flights. And there just weren't enough flights, and the timing has been kind of off for my commute, which is the most important thing, right? My commute is priority one.
Yes.
Yeah, the airlines
always
need to
is, always
schedule
will be
around my commute. And
Yeah.
so anyways, so I had to go in because of the timing on these flights, which was kind of changed and has become unusual, which I think has to do with their whole freak out over the tariffs and rescheduling everything. I was going to end up having to get to work like 3 or 4 hours before showtime when normally I can get in an hour or two before show. And so I show up, I have to get up early, show up at the airport. There was a United flight and then a Southwest flight. Those are my two options. And you have to have two options for our commuter clause. And so I show up with the United one. It's oversold. They're asking people to take later flights for $600 or $800. And so I spoke with the gate agent. They said, "Yeah, you're the only jump seater listed. You'll probably get the flight deck, but you're good." Okay, great. So I didn't list. I had already listed online with Southwest, but I didn't go to the gate. And so I end up 10, 15 minutes into boarding. They're like, "Yeah, go ahead and head down. You're on the jump seat." I go down, introduce myself. Flight crew, super cool guys. It's a 7-3. And we're just chit-chatting. They're doing their brief, and they're almost finished boarding, and the gate agent comes up and goes, "Hey, we're weight restricted. Jump seaters got to come off." And the captain goes, "No, that's not how it works. Jump seaters don't count against our weight restriction." And she goes, "Oh, no. That's only United jump seaters. Off-flight jump seaters count against it." And we all look at her like, "Do you realize what you just said?" like, wait
It's
a
actually
minute.
true.
So I'm worth 200 pounds, but a United jump seater's not? Like, that
Worth
makes
zero.
zero sense. Like, zero, right? And so the captain was like, you could see like his brain explode when she said that. But he was like, I just looked at him like, "You know what, man? I'll just go try to catch Southwest," because they were about to get into a big fight, right? And I'm like, this is now what I've learned since then is I should have let that happen. And I should have let the captain call their load planning and say what the hell's going on, because we'll see we'll see what happens when the union follows up. I submitted a report to them. So I ended up getting off because ultimately the gate agent was going to probably kick me off anyways. And so I ran over to Southwest. I show up. It's oversold. There's 12 standbys listed, and I'm number 7 on the pilot list. And I'm like, damn.
On the pilot list?
There were 7 guys ahead of me listed for the jump seat.
Ouch.
And had I gone enlisted when I first got to United, I probably would have been one of the first couple, because it was an hour and something minutes earlier. But because I thought I was on United. So anyways, I mean, I literally was sitting in the jump seat when they kicked me off. But anyways, so then I go back. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to a Southwest guy who's also trying to jump seat. He's like number 6 at this point, and so he's looking at his app and he's like, yeah, dude, you're like number 7. He said, hopefully some people don't show up. And so I waited till the last minute, and they made announcements. They said, sorry, everybody who checked in showed up and the flight's full. It was crazy. I'd never seen so many pilots in uniform trying to get to work. There were like 6 pilots in uniform in the little waiting area. We were all sitting there together, like not getting on this airplane, which normally Southwest is my go-to. That's the first time. But anyways, so now I'm not going to make it to work. So I had to use our commuter clause.
Commuting sucks.
Yeah, and what's Connor?
No, so do they have to call somebody off of ready reserved in lieu of you since you weren't able to get to work? Is that how that works?
Yeah, they'll put somebody. Yeah, so I called crew scheduling, said, hey, got to use our commuter clause, and they said, okay, and they looked and they said, yeah, we can't reconnect you, so you're just getting pulled off the whole trip. Luckily, you're able to pick up in that, but that's 4 day. It was a 4-day trip. And so we're not pay protected.
There was a lot of credit.
That's a lot of money. That's several thousands, a few $1,000. So luckily I was able to move a couple things around this week and pick up an extra, about 10 hours extra of credit this coming week. So that offsets, because I lost out on like 23 hours. So I think I'm ultimately only going to be down net. I'll be down like 5 or 6 hours of credit. So it's not too bad. But that was the first time that happened. And I was like, man, what is going? I'm like, I can't keep doing this long term, because I did the math and I'm like, man, because I had to go in an extra, 2 or 3 hours early that day compared to what I normally would have to, like that turned my, what should have been a 3 or 4 hour commute day into like a 6 or 7 hour commute day.
It burned a whole day.
I'm burning a whole day now when I could have been at home. And then my last commute the week before that, everything was really delayed because of the weather at both locations. So I skipped my workout and doing a couple things that day, some errands I had to run to show up a little early, only to sit at the airport for 3 to 4 hours when I could have just accomplished all that stuff at home. So these are the realities of commuting. Depending on where you live, like, it's not all bad, but this is the reason I'm looking to buy a home within a drivable distance at the airport. Because even if I'm a 3 hours drive from my airport where I'm based, that's okay. So I know I leave 3.5 hours, 4 hours early to make my showtime with parking and everything, but I'm not worried about not making my flight, having to lose out credit. If the weather is involved, it's not as much. Yeah, exactly. It's a way more, I can plan my day more reliably about it. So, you talk to guys when you start working in the 121 world and they're like, yeah, I commuted for a few years and I'll never do it again. And I'm not saying I'll never do it again, but I'm starting. Yeah, John. Yeah, but you only did it for, well, I don't know what you did at the regional, but
I did it for 2.5 years.
Okay.
Total.
Yeah. So
it was enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's if you have the ability, because there's some people that, live in small rural areas where their families have been for generations, and commuting for them just works. It makes sense. And they're okay with it. But a lot of people end up that start out commuting, don't continue commuting unless you live in like a small town in, Montana or one of the Dakotas or, one of those kind of situations where your family has generational land and stuff like that. So yeah, man, that was my week. It was shocking, unexpected, and definitely a little frustrating, because you're like, man, now I'm down 4 days of credit. What am I going to do about it? So now and I'm one of those guys who gets my schedule, and I usually don't screw with it. So that I've had to go into our scheduling system every day and move stuff around, which is frustrating as well. Yeah, these are realities that I haven't had to deal with in a little while. So
They
it's
don't
been
teach you in flight school. They don't really talk about this part in flight school.
no, this is it.
Hey,
Yeah.
let me bust my tail to get there, and then you have a whole. Just whenever you get your 1,500 hours, that's whenever your problems just start happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, these are the things that weren't in the brochure at ATP.
Yeah, where's this?
Yeah, exactly.
But me and John are over here just kind of listening because John's able to drive to the airport. I'm able to drive to the airport, and that just makes me break out in hives. That story you just told, because I did it for about a year, and it's really, you start throwing kids and a wife on top of that.
It's just not. I can't do it.
That is just probably a deal breaker. And
long term, totally.
But some people are just completely out of options, and I totally get that too. It's just part of the job, and my job has been so much less stress, just cutting out the commuting to kind of follow up on that.
Yeah, I mean, when because I lived in base my first year at my airline, and it had its different challenges because of where I was living, and all my friends lived somewhere else, and so I was commuting on my days off to see my friends and family. But living in base, it was so nice because it was like I was 20 minutes from the parking lot, and I just showed up, and I was able to do day trips, and it was, I understand why John does it because I've been there and done it, and your quality of life's so much better.
And you had good day trips.
Oh yeah, well back then they were.
They were pretty good. The ones that you were doing were nice.
Oh, yeah.
They were above 6 hours usually.
Oh yeah, I was averaging 7.5 hours a day on credit. It was incredible. And I was only gone for...
That's great.
I was only gone for 10 to 12 hours, depending on the day. It was fantastic. The challenge of commuting, man. So now I understand, it's... As you do it more, it's easier to understand why people don't want to do it. Because it does take away a lot of your time.
Yeah. And there's a part of it, you have to pay your dues and you have to do it, and then once you're able to be kind of senior enough to be able to hold a line, that's kind of whenever you start making your decisions on, okay, where do I want to move that's my airline or my company has a base to make it as easy as possible. But it's all about paying your dues, and everybody pretty much has done it at some point. And it's just, it's definitely a knock on the job at times.
You just brought up a great point, Connor, which is when I was asking people what airline to consider working for, one of the top answers I got was pick an airline that has a base where you want to live. And
absolutely,
this is the example as to why they say that. Where, because what they were essentially saying was eventually you're not going to want to commute. And so you're going to want to drive to work. So pick an airline where you can live in one of their bases that you'll be happy with, is what they were saying. And it's critically important.
Living in
I'm
Texas,
telling you, I'm trying to...
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good, man.
But
living in Texas?
Yeah. So like living in Texas, like for example, Sun Country Airlines, they're based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was never an airline that I have even thought about considering or anything. Like that was even an airline whenever I was out on furlough that I didn't even cast an application to. And then you talk to guys that are from the north, they're all over Sun Country Airlines because it's close to where they're living, where their folks live, this, that, and the other. So I kind of wanted to tie that back around to your point.
Yeah, well, and it's a good point because one of
an interview back when I was at a regional, I was my mom and dad live up in Minneapolis. I grew up in Minneapolis. I actually had a chance to interview at Sun Country. I put an application in. I ended up not doing the interview because for me at the time, kind of what we're talking about, could I envision myself going back to Minnesota and living there? And I was just like, sometimes people like to go back. Some people like to go back to, where they were born and raised and all that. For me, it was like, I don't really think of that as my ideal, but I have guys who work there. I know guys who work there and they love it for that reason, because They do mostly day trips, and they fly to Minneapolis, to Fort Myers, Dallas, and whatever. But you talk to the commuters there, they absolutely hate it for the most part. They can make it work, but people always think of the upside and not the downside when they think of those situations. And they think, oh, I'm going to be able to make it work long term. And you quickly figure out it's just not going to work out long term.
Yeah.
Because
and like NetJets and FlexJet, they're all home-based pilots, and they actually kind of have it figured out to where you can live anywhere you want to, as long as you're within a reasonable distance from a major airport, whether that's DFW,
even
or
regional
Fort Myers,
airports,
Florida,
dude. Like
regional airports, and they'll fly you out on day one of your trip. Now you're gone for 7 days. The way they run it is 7 days on, 7 days off, I believe. But they'll airline you out to the aircraft. You're with that aircraft for a week, and then on the last day they airline you home. And so they don't have that commuter clause in there, because they buy you an airline ticket, and they just cut that aspect completely out. NetJets and FlexJet does, and other fractional jet
cargo airlines
carriers,
do the same
like
thing.
that. So they really got it figured out.
Yeah,
dude, I honestly think that if you had to tell me, would you rather commute to an airline, like a passenger airline, or for the rest of your career, or would you rather be at NetJets, even with the 7 on, 7 off? I think I would choose NetJets. Like, not having to worry about the commute and living absolutely anywhere, all things considered. I almost think that it would cause me to do that, no matter how senior I got, no matter what the trips were. I think,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
man,
another part of it would be, well, you look at American, right? They basically say you don't have to live within a certain time period. It's just as reasonably as possible for you to get to the airport on reserve, for example. So I kind of think about that too, American? Being like, well, okay, there's like no 2-hour call out, I believe. So
really?
It's just like in a reasonable amount of time. They expect, honestly, within 2 hours or 3 hours, but it's not specifically labeled, I believe. So, which is a big thing for some people, because they live in Oklahoma, whatever, and just drive to Dallas. So I think, though, when it comes to being seniority wise and the money that you might be able to make at, say, Delta, you might be able to be like, you know what, I'm just going to buy my tickets to and from work at that point, or maybe just the ones to work. If I'm making 350, 400 grand a year, maybe it makes sense at that point, being like, I would rather not commute and worry about it. And I think for them, I think you'll need one attempt on company metal to do that. I don't know their commuter policy, but it's for Delta or American United, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a terribly difficult thing, and you're not going to get in trouble like some other places, as long as you're off probation in that sense.
Right.
Can I tell you guys about my highest earning flight I've ever operated this week?
Good.
Yeah. What's that all about?
This is one of the things about so this is one of the things about living in base, which is really nice. So I had 2 day turns I swapped into 2.5 day trip. It was initially supposed to be midway turn, deadhead to Vegas, operated a red eye back the next night. Someone called fatigue when I was waiting. The airplane was late getting to Atlanta because of the weather or whatever. Get a call from scheduling. Hey, we need you to operate Cancun. And then so the pairing changed. So it was going to be operate to Cancun, deadhead back, deadhead to Vegas the same day to operate the red eye back.
Wow.
Well, the flight attendants timed out in Cancun, so they decided to kick everyone off the airplane. Not kick everyone off, but they had everyone get off, and they rebuilt the airplane back. And we missed the commute. So all things considered, it was 20 hours of credit to operate one leg and be home in bed within 10 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Now, if you could do that every week, you could.
Well, dude, you've seen my schedule in Atlanta. Dude,
yeah.
Scott,
I know. How are you crediting 120 hours with 72 a block or whatever, you bastard? I'm jealous and angry about this.
I'm just trying to say that, dude, I'm just trying to say, man, you got to live in base. There's a lot of money to be made for overblock, for shit that happens. And I don't even pick up the premium, bro. Like, so I don't know. So,
well, I'm glad you're seeing the silver lining of being Atlanta based.
I mean, the check's cash, dude. So I'll take advantage of it, you know?
Sure.
So, anyways, I just want to say that probably will never happen again. But I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
But I think it was like 19 and a half hours after everything for operating one leg and deadheading home because we overblocked because of the storm. We sat out there for an hour and a half additional waiting for a storm to pass. And then it was an hour and a half extra on the repo for waiting for a gate. So it was a lot. So anyways, live in base, my friends, and you get opportunities to do that kind of stuff and be at home at the same day.
Absolutely. What
do you guys want to talk about next?
Have y'all been doing any research or anything on this Air India 787 crash? Has that been something y'all have kind of been in tune to?
We talked about it
last week. Yeah, I don't know if any new information has come up or not. I'm not totally sure.
I know that they were pulling the black boxes, and before we logged on, or before we got on the air, John was saying that they recovered the black boxes and that they're keeping everything in the country. That it's very kind of secretive. They're protecting all the information that they found, which is kind of not jarring. I guess that's kind of how they operate over there. But it makes you really wonder if we're going to get real clarity and the real story on what happened. I have an idea of maybe something that happened. I mean, and again, I'm not a 787 guy. I don't know a whole lot about that airplane. Don't know much about the engines. Don't know much about the systems. I do know that it's one of the more advanced, and they were having some issues at Boeing, some whistleblowers over the quality of the product. But does it not seem to you, after seeing that video, with the gear still down, does it almost seem like somebody called positive rate? And instead of putting the gear up, they inadvertently maybe put the flaps up, which caused it to lose lift. Is that something that y'all have even thought about or considered? I'm just curious.
I think we talked a little bit about that theory with Yoke Me Daddy last week. And I think it would be pretty hard because those engines still can produce the amount of thrust without, even if you dumped all the flaps, to be able to still get out of there. Obviously, I don't know, but I listened to an aviation podcast this week as well, and they made a really good point saying that basically the fact that an airworthiness directive has not come out of this investigation yet for something critical, like whatever would happen. Yeah, an AD came out.
Yeah, so there was an AD. It's, because every aircraft is the same. It has a ground mode and an air mode, obviously. Weight on wheel switch, nutcracker switch. And so there was an AD. Apparently, there's some micro switches under the aircraft that maybe have to do with the weight on wheel switch. And they think that there's either a leaky lav or a leaky sink is potentially maybe going through the lav into the bottom of the aircraft and maybe freezing. And there was an AD that came out on those micro switches. You'd have to fact check me on that, but I was listening to a guy yesterday talking about that. And again, I don't know much about the 7.8 really at all, but it was interesting to see that an AD did come out this week or last week on that. I'm going to kind of keep my ear to the ground on that and maybe feed you some updates. But it's just crazy. I mean, that was the first fatal of a 7.8.
Totally.
All captured on camera.
I got the Federal Register pulled up. That AD is from 2015. So we talked about this last week. There's a bunch of fake stories going around listing ADs and stuff and emergency things, and those are all from years ago. So I think it's just people trying to get clicks and watches, by pulling up real ADs, but they're actually years old and saying, oh, they just put them out this week. And it's like, nah. They just pulled the black boxes. How could they even know what the heck happened? Yeah.
If that's the first time I've ever been wrong, I'm okay with that.
Connor's never wrong.
The show I was listening to, no, he's not. The show I was listening to, though, made a good point being like, since nothing has really come out of it yet, there most likely is some mechanical or crew-related issue, not the airplane.
Most likely,
so
yeah.
Usually they're pretty quick with it. Boeing wants to know, so they can put something out there incredibly fast. I can't remember when the 737 MAX happened. They initially came out and said it was the crew's fault. Don't you remember that?
Yeah.
They made a big deal.
They claimed crew training, and they were trying to take all the heat off the MCAS system, which was which is totally screwed up. I mean, they're still fighting.
So we'll see.
That.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I think we'll know more.
Well, and it's interesting, I know we talk a lot about airlines on this podcast. You know, you're two airline pilots. I'm a former airline pilot, but now on kind of the charter side. So I deal more with like GA and stuff like that now. And while we're talking about crashes, I thought maybe I could segue into this. I've done some research on GA fatal crashes dating back to 2021. And we are in day 182 out of 365 on this year. Do y'all want to take a stab at how many fatal GA crashes that we've had this year?
Is
Over
it higher
300.
or lower than average?
Over 300.
Okay. So it actually,
I'm going to guess. Let me take a guess. I'm going to say, so there's 180, so that'd be fatal crashes?
fatal,
270?
We're actually down to 60 this year. 60. We're
Wow,
There you
that's
go.
fantastic.
So
I mean,
we're
not
at
fantastic that 60 people have died, but
10.027. Right. But in 2021, we had 15.9 fatals per month. In 2022, we had 15.33 fatals per month. 2023, it continued going down to 14.5 per month. Last year, 2024, 12.66 per month. And as of today, day 182 out of 365, we're down to 10.027 per month. So I just want to at least
What do you
highlight
attribute that to?
that's my question.
I think it's a lot of the newer technology that we might be having. I also want to say it's the younger generation getting into aviation over the past decade, where there's more. You're sharper as a younger pilot. Now you can still make decisions that maybe an experienced pilot
Take
would
that,
have versus
boomers.
an inexperienced pilot. Yeah, but
Keep
and I
going.
also
Keep going.
think it
Sorry.
could be down to the technology that we have. I mean, we have ForeFlight where you can pull up
For
literally
flight.
everything you want to see about the flight. And I think number one, to bring it home, I think it's the decision making that we're starting to have. And I just really wanted to highlight that to show that the trend is going down in fatals. Now that's not saying, like there's crashes obviously every day that don't result in death. Those still happen, but we really want to see those fatals go down. And at 60 in 2025, man, that's something that I definitely wanted to highlight and say that we're getting safer as a pilot group. And it's really nice
Can I
to
make
see.
can I make an observation that I think it has to do with the amount of people going to flight school now versus let's go back 10 years ago to 2015. How many people that were operating in GA were primarily training for flight school versus just cowboy on the weekends going up? Versus now, the amount of block hours that we're flying in GA is mostly attributed to flight training. And in flight training, you're not in those scenarios where you're alone and can make those mistakes as easily in that sense. I think that's my opinion on it too, with all of the things that you said too. So I think all of those things matter. But I think that if you looked at the like the root cause of it, I think the type of flying that people are doing is mostly going to be in flight training due to the pilot shortage causing everyone to try to go get a pilot license. And then the technology on top of using that when it comes to CFIs, to for flight, all of those different things make a huge difference. ADS-B, like how many more airplanes do you think got ADS-B in the last 5 years?
Well,
Probably a
the
tremendous
majority of
amount
them because they had to.
The
Yeah.
majority of them did.
Right.
I think
Right.
that's a regulation now where you're required to have it after either
Well, it's ADS-B
2021 or
out.
2022.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm saying ADS-B in is really the
Yeah, but
important
all
part
you
for
need for
situational
ADS-B
awareness.
in is ForeFlight with the Stratus.
Yeah, this is the point. Is
Yeah.
so being able to do
Technology.
that, where that technology. Yeah. So I think all those points really matter. So
1 million.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
and to
absolutely
kind of
right. I mean,
piggyback
I
on
think
another
personally,
point.
since
And to kind of
I've flown GA and 121, 135, 91, all that, I think ForeFlight should be mandatory. Every operation should be allowed to use ForeFlight as their primary, EFB program. It should have no problem getting FAA certification. It provides everything and anything and gives you so much more situational awareness, even probably more so than the most modernized airline cockpit or GA jet cockpit.
it is
It really
totally.
is. It has everything, and there's a reason everybody else uses it. But with the 121 airline certifications and stuff, they're all saying that they have to get all the special certification for it, and then they claim it's the most expensive product. Well, it's the most expensive because it's the best. Period. And I think that should be the product, because I believe that Boeing owns them now, and they also own JEP. What's that?
I was going to say now that Boeing sold Jeppesen, which is the one I think.
Oh, they sold
I
JEP?
can't remember how. Yeah. JEP is going to a private equity group now. So I don't know if they're going to hold on to ForeFlight or not, or what the future of ForeFlight is going to be because of that divestiture.
Interesting.
So I don't know. But I just remember as a flight instructor, it was the holy grail. Like, it was awesome. Everything was right there, And so I know the platform that is used in Europe. It's not Jeppesen.
Lido.
Yeah. So Lido, the product, the way it was interpreted to me in Europe, they have everything acting like ForeFlight inside of Lido. They try to. So they have all their company documentation. They have all their performance tables. So if you need to do, let's say your AWIP data was not working or whatever for performance, you could do all of it internally on one app. But it's not as good as ForeFlight, I'll tell you that. So everything can be contained into ForeFlight. I don't think you're going to find one pilot that says ForeFlight is not the best by a large margin. So totally
at least in
agree.
At least in our generation of flying. And, like the G1000.
Because it's intuitive. Yeah, for us, it's intuitive.
Well, and especially like in new trainers.
Keep going, sorry.
Like in new training aircraft. I'm an ATP alumni, so I went through ATP. I wasn't able to solo. Part of their requirements was you had to have 40 hours before they would allow you to solo. Where at all these other flight schools, or per the reg, you have to have a minimum, is it 10 or 12 hours of solo? It's one of the two. And ATP has the G1000 glass panels, Garmin 1000 avionics, that have way more capability than my G4 does. And so that is also a contributing factor as well. You're able to see your wind drift. You're able to see
more than the Airbus does.
And because I believe the G4 and the Airbus were certified both in the 80s. And they've pretty much kept that same concept all the way up to its present day production. So, I think the technology does play a big role in it, as well as the decision making. We're getting better as a pilot group, and I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody out flying around saying, hey, let's keep this up. We don't want to see people die doing what we love. And the fact that we're down to 60 this year alone. Now, it's not wintertime yet. Winter and icing, you might see those numbers go up. But I was just happy to see a trend from present day down to 2021. We're in a straight line going down. So shout out to everybody flying around. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, definitely.
Scott, do you have any interest in getting back in a Cessna for a rip around the pattern?
Say again?
Do you have any interest of going up in a Cessna and just ripping around the pattern for a couple laps?
Nope. Done with small airplanes. I flew those to get here, and I only flew those because I had to get here. I'm one of those
people have different opinions.
Yeah, some guys, I fly with guys all the time who want to putz around in their Husky and Piper Cub all weekend long. And I'm like, hey, man, more power to you. I'm one of those guys who's like, man, if I never have to get into a tiny death trap like that again, I won't.
We all have to do stuff
to get to where we're at. Like we all have to kind of do the sketchy jobs to get to where we're at. And then, whenever you're at a decent job, where I think we're all three at, you kind of look back and you're like, man, I lived through that. I don't think I'm going to do that again. And I'll even take it a step further. I don't even know if I'd get into a single engine airplane ever again. I want to have two engines, man.
No, I don't think so either.
Pilatus is like the smallest thing I'd ever get into again.
Man.
Yeah.
Just makes me want to break out in hives.
I remember the cross countries. Yeah, man. I used to do these cross countries across the Arizona mountains at nighttime. Like, I don't know what the obstacle clearance you needed back then was. I can't remember because it's been so long, but maybe like 5,000 feet above them or something like that. I can't remember. But anyways, I think about that now being like, if my engine just shut off, what do? You make this cross country plan and all that, But when you're going through a mountain range, for 30 miles over the mountains at night in a Cessna 172, what are you going to do really if that thing kicks out? There's some areas on the flight plan, that are high liability points. So, or even to be honest, doing think about turns around a point, or as a flight instructor, about doing that stuff at nighttime, or not even nighttime, I guess, because you won't be doing VFR, obviously, duh. There's times when even VFR daytime, you're 500 feet off the ground or 1,000 feet off the ground, doing these maneuvers, and your engine shuts off. Supposedly you can land, and we train for that, but man, I don't want to be in that position. That
Well,
would suck.
even
So
thinking
no,
about it,
I agree with
when
you.
so basically, whenever I'm bored on flights and things, like you were talking about, flying around the mountains, if something was to happen, where am I going to land with one engine? The more and more I start finding myself thinking, if the guy I'm flying next to becomes incapacitated, or if he for some reason has a medical emergency, how am I going to fly this aircraft and land it single pilot, number one? Where am I going to go, number two? And kind of what are my communications going to be, number three?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of scary to think about sometimes. But
Yeah.
that's something that I'll find myself thinking about whenever I kind of get bored during a flight and things like that. So I try and always be as prepared as possible and at least have a plan, and would like to think, okay, if this happens over St. Louis, that's a pretty easy decision. I'm going to go to St. Louis. If this happens over nowhere, Canada, then what am I going to do? So that's something to kind of keep the gears rolling. And I would encourage everybody to just kind of start thinking like that if you haven't already, because it might happen one day.
Scott, I think we flew with the same captain one time that put DME rings off of every airport, a lot of airports, for if you were to, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
He was yeah, and I thought that was interesting because he's prior Air Force, so his decision making, his situational awareness was much higher level in that sense of, oh yeah, you're actually probably right, of these are the different places we could go if we had different catastrophic issues going on, or even an engine failure, whatever you have it, that you kind of take away your thought process away from it, being okay, well, this is what we're going to do. Obviously that can change, but having someone prepared like that, those people always say before you upgrade to captain, you spend some time in the right seat deciding, okay, what kind of captain do I want to be? Do I like these things? Do I not like some of the ways that these guys do it? So I thought that was a really interesting way to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying with, okay, so if you already have all these points on your flight plan of airports that you want to bug out to if you need to, depending on where you are, it's a good thing to have in your back pocket too, to start doing. I probably should start doing that too, to be honest, even from the right seat. But
yeah, there'll be times when we're over weird spots of the country where there's nothing around, and I'll pull up the nearest page and just start kind of eyeballing what's the closest airport, right? And then I'll once in a while I'll be like, I wonder how far this one is. So I'll throw it in there to see. And the captains always seem to look at me kind of weird when I'm doing that for the most part. And I'm like,
it's weird.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I want to know where I'm at, and if we have to go somewhere, I want to just immediately be able to, because most guys, on the bus, you can display all the airports on the ND screen. And so a lot of guys rely on that. Well, the problem is those aren't always the best option. And, they might look closer, but they might not be. You have to, it's just situational awareness, right? Do it old school.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we used to manually tune our VOR all the time to, back us up in case our GPS failed. Guys don't do that anymore, really. I mean, the bus auto tunes it for you, but I've had guys that manually tune it before, really old school, usually the military guys. Anywho.
What's next on the docket, boys?
What y'all got?
Well, you guys wanted to talk about EASA and them. They didn't deny single pilot ops, but what they did was they paused research into it, which basically was their government body saying, well, given the current technology and flight deck avionics programs, we don't see the ability to make it realistic and efficient to do single pilot ops or spend the time researching it anymore. Now, who knows how much of that was lobby influence, but pretty huge blow to Airbus, because I know, because they are EASA, they're under EASA, and they were the ones spearheading the single pilot airline cockpit.
I don't know if it's going to stop them from trying to develop it, though, because they're like, okay, based on the current technology, right? But Airbus is probably going to say, well, we're developing the technology right now. It might not be ready this minute, but how about 5 years from now or 10 years? You know, we talked about last time or with Connor, their new clean sheet design of an airplane following the A320 series airplane is going to come about a decade from now. And it's like a decade is a long time for a multi-billion-dollar company, the biggest airplane manufacturer in the world, to be able to spend on making that capability happen. So I think it's a win for us right now. But to be honest, I don't know how much it changes things a decade from now with having it implemented. That's
Right.
my take.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is I'm with you. I think Airbus is still going to be developing the software, but I've kind of changed my tune on it. I think instead of Airbus rolling out passenger configured single pilot aircraft, I think it's going to start with maybe a cargo carrier to where they can test out that software without 300 or 400 people sitting behind them. So it is paused. I did read that article as well. Airbus isn't happy about it. They're going to continue to press forward. But I think when this does roll out, if it does, I think we'll see it on cargo carriers first for a testing period, whether that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And then once the flying public kind of starts seeing proof in the pudding, maybe they'll roll it back into the passenger configuration. It's just such a wild idea to me. I just don't see that happening tomorrow. I think we'll be talking about this for a few years to come, maybe a decade or two before it's a real possibility. Would be my guess.
I think the tricky thing that is going to be hard is, you know, they try to do it with Cathay, like a testing platform for the long oceanic crossings. I think there's capability now to be able to do and try to lobby for something like that, where you can reduce the rest period or maybe bring one less pilot. But if you want to go truly single pilot the entire operation, you're going to need a clean sheet design, because the ECAM, the way it works, it's not designed to be run by one person. The airplane is just simply not like an Airbus, 320 at least. So I think if they're going to develop an airplane, they need to do a clean sheet, which they're doing. And I think that they will create a way to be able to run ECAMs and fly by yourself. I think that's going to be the kicker. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do, personally. I just don't see Airbus
like
going
auto shutdown features to where whenever an issue triggers an ECAM, it's going to have to auto shut down and secure that engine all the way to the HP fuel cock being turned off. I know we have FedEx and all that stuff, but they're going to have to figure something out to where the guy can still fly the aircraft and his co-pilot shutting everything down the way typical aircraft are designed to. I think we're a long way from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think in the next couple of years, we'll have a good understanding what Airbus is actually up to. I don't think they're going to come out and say, hey, our stance is we want single pilot immediately in the next 10 years in this next, because I don't think there's a motive for it. I don't think, financially speaking, right now, to say that to the flying public and to unions and all that. So I don't know. I really don't know. So Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, John, your point was very accurate. We don't know how advanced technology will be in a decade. I mean, if you look at it, cell phones really only became a thing, like 15 years ago? And back then it was, Nokia brick phones. And now everybody has a supercomputer in their pocket.
Yeah.
Like, I'll find myself walking, like yesterday, I was walking out of the barbershop and I immediately noticed myself grabbing for my phone. And I'm like, what the, we literally, how far it's come in just this short period of time. So I think you're right, John. Under the current technology that we have in cockpits,
certified technology,
yes,
I would say that.
Yes, exactly. Because Part 25 has the standards for certifying an airliner cockpit, right? So I think under those certification, and those policies right now, we just don't have the technology to meet the requirements to certify an aircraft single pilot. But I think you're right. 10 years from now, with how fast AI is advancing and all the technology that's currently going, I think we'll be in a completely different spot. I think you're right. And Connor, you said like I can't see that. I just don't see it happening. You're absolutely right. Right now, we don't see it happening. But in 2 or 3 years, who knows? The landscape can change dramatically if they come out with some giant breakthrough in robotics and AI. I mean, hell, if these humanoid robots end up becoming they already have them working on car factory lines and doing
Imagine your
Amazon
AI
packaging. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you won't need a body in the seat. The technology is there. It's not matured yet.
Yeah,
But in a couple,
whoever makes the technology, whether it's an aircraft manufacturer or a third party, whoever can make that software that you're describing, that person could probably also go in there and hack that software and plant a bug or plant some software
I agree.
misconception, and you could be straight and level at 35,000 feet, and then at the push of the space bar on your laptop, could nose over. It's just so. But to your point,
It's
a couple
sketchy.
episodes ago, there is fully driving automated vehicles that people are getting into right now too.
Well, look at Tesla shares. They just shot up because they introduced their robo-taxis in Austin.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd get into a Tesla robo-taxi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a Waymo.
Yeah.
The guy I fly with, he told me the other day, in your career, you will see a fully automated aircraft. But we were kind of going back and forth over it. Well, fully automated is in pilotless aircraft, not even one, but just no pilots at all. And I'm like,
yeah, they did
I don't know.
It was a Caravan they did already.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a Caravan a cargo airplane that did a flight without a pilot.
Just some good cockpit banter, But they did do that. I saw that, and I thought that was AI, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think one last point I want to make on this topic is where you need to look is the uncertified. I can't remember what's the part under with GA that's uncertified with all the cool technology, but it's not technically FAA certified. You know what I'm talking about? Like where you can put all these different types of avionics
experimental,
but yeah. So I think you're going to see a lot of experimental technology come out that will determine kind of this next couple of years. Where if we start seeing experimental AI within flight decks, where it genuinely can do 60-70% of what you need, because there's already Cirruses that can have in my pilot died feature, a passenger can click a button and it lands.
It's a Garmin
Auto Land.
Yeah, Garmin Auto Land.
They've used it a few times. Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. So my point is, okay, well, the experimental side is going to see it first, obviously. Where that goes is going to determine kind of how the airliner aspect in 121 certification will go, but it's obviously going to take a long time. So
I think it has a lot to do with the general population's willingness to accept it. So like if you think about, generally in the sci-fi world, the movies precede the technology, right? You look back into like the 80s and Star Trek, those things were what we end up developing different versions of in the 90s. The thing I've noticed though is in all this stuff, it's always human piloted aircraft and spacecraft. The public as a whole doesn't seem to want to accept that some automated thing, robot or whatever, is flying for them, which is very interesting because people will get into cars, all automated Waymos and Teslas now, and most people will get in without thinking about it and just go for a ride, but they don't want to get in an airplane. So I think that's going to be the bigger driving factor behind it.
Do you think there's a sentiment though of these people being like, "Oh, pilots don't even do anything; they just sit there anyways"?
Oh yeah, we're the Uber drivers.
We could get rid of one. Yeah, they're like, we could just get rid of one. Like they just sit there. So what's the point?
They say
I think that honestly,
they say that, but I think you could ask. For example, there's a lot of Silicon Valley tech guys that are pushing for AI and pilotless cockpits because they think AI can do better than a pilot. And I say, it's funny when you see those people post online, everybody's responses are you really going to put your family on that G6 with nobody up front? And I guarantee you, if you genuinely put those people in that situation, they would not put their family on that airplane. They would want a pilot up there.
That's a good point to make.
Every single one of them. So I get their, in theory, their idea of, AI can do better. They might be right. AI might be better able to calculate things and probably is than a human. However, computers are fallible, AI is fallible, as are humans. Everything's fallible, so you need backups. And so I guarantee I think we might see single pilot ops towards the end of our careers in our lifetimes. Or me, I've got 20 something years left at most. I might see single pilot ops as a reality towards the end of my career, but I don't think I will see no pilot cockpits. I don't think that the public is going to accept that.
The whole ecosystem needs to change. Yeah, the whole ecosystem would need to change for complete automation, because who is ATC going to talk to? Are they just going to be the ones? Are they the real pilots at that point of what they want to do? You know what I mean? Okay, Airbus flight, whatever, turn right heading 240, intercept the localizer. How the hell is, there's so much interpretation with them speaking so fast, So think about taxi instructions, like all these different things. How are you supposed to, like, in our current ecosystem, it doesn't translate. It's based upon human to human communication.
Somewhere in Asia, they were developing this futuristic airport. It's all on a computer. It's a big plan. And for the taxi, they had on the taxi lines, they had tracks that the nose wheel would go into, and the tracks would take the aircraft all the way up to the hold short line. The track would take it all the way up to the takeoff point.
It's like Disneyland stuff, dude.
Shit.
It's like on a rail. It's like cuckoo stuff, right? And I'm like, holy
I'd be down for that, dude.
Somebody
so you just pull up to the hold bar and it grabs you?
Yeah. It just the hold bar the track pushes you back and then it puts you on the center line and it's like a roller coaster ride. Just taking you forward. And I was looking at it, I'm like, it's kind of like an aircraft carrier. Whenever like the F-16s take off of an aircraft carrier, they get on the track and then it just propels you all the way forward and then boom, you're in the air. I wonder if we're going to have that one day.
Maybe, dude. I saw something on, I don't know how real it is, but it was like an airplane car wash for de-icing. And so it was like a building that an airplane would taxi into. And it would just lock you into place and it would do the de-ice. And so I was like, I could probably see that working. Something like that.
You just
centralize the de-icing and have a car wash.
Yep.
Yeah, and the car wash comes over
so
you
we'll see.
Type 1 and Type 4 you. That would actually be, because I don't know how many times y'all have had to de-ice last year, but last time I got de-iced, they got the Type 2, or they got the Type 1 or Type 4, and they just put it right in my APU and just blew it right in the APU, and there was like chemicals just drenching down through the aircraft, making my eyes water, and the passenger and the guys in the back, they came storming through. Can we breathe this stuff? I look over there and I have bloodshot eyes. Like, I think we're okay.
Ugh.
and the aircraft smelled like that for the next month. We got it cleaned and everything. We just could not get that de-ice smell. So you take the human error point out of that. If they can develop the car wash anti-ice, I'd be all for that, because that was crazy. Washington D.C.
I agree.
Crazy stuff, man.
We covered quite a lot of ground today.
It's about 4 p.m.
Yeah, it's a pretty good place for you to wrap up since you got to get going. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in to another great episode of the Autopilot On podcast. Thanks again, Connor, for coming back. We love having you, man.
You're always fun.
Catch us on the web. We got X, Instagram, Autopilot On podcast at gmail.com and autopiloton.com. If you have any ideas for episodes or would love to be a guest, feel free to reach out to us. We have a contact us page there as well.
Just a pleasure being with you guys, and excited to see you next week.
Cool. Absolutely. Thanks again, everybody.
Love
Thanks, Connor, and we'll see you guys soon.
See ya. Bye, guys.